Hello everyone and welcome back. My name is Rachel Morgan and I am going to be featuring another strategy that I implemented in the field quite successfully, and it certainly led to me being a better educator out there, whether it was recording small issues that particular students as individuals had that I needed to work on with them to remember for the following day or even 3 lessons later, if it was recognizing issues that the whole class was having or maybe a majority of the class was having that I could bring for a whole lesson in the future. That was super critical, and as a process for myself to reflect on the lessons that I brought, how they went, how I felt about them, the criticism and feedback I received, how I could make that better, and of course to remember what I did, how I implemented it, and my students in the future. As a side note, it also helped keep me sane in a grade 8 classroom. So this is a fantastic strategy and I certainly recommend anyone who's an educator out there to use it. So I'm going to give you a quick overview of how I used it and what I did in the field, and hopefully I'll get some responses or comments about you using them as well. So to begin with, should be right side up. As I said, I reflected on specific lessons. So you can kind of see here that after a lesson had ran, I would give some feedback, some tips that I received from my co-op. This one's from my faculty advisor, from my co-op teacher as well as my co-op partner, and then some things that I felt about the lesson. If I noticed in this particular one that students weren't participating very well during discussions in the morning in literacy, I then decided on what strategies I would bring for the following lecture to help that be remedied. So in this particular circumstance, I'm having a problem with students participating in discussion. They're coming in dead-eyed, tired, and not really too keen to jump into conversation. So I've designed a think, pair, share strategy here to implement for the following lesson to hopefully give them some confidence if that's the issue. It could be that they're just tired and they don't want to talk in the morning. It could also be that there are some confidence issues that they're needing to have some time to generate those answers and some discussion to help encourage further thought and connection. So this actually ended up working out really well, and it did increase discussion in the classroom. So that's fantastic. I also have reflections on my co-op teacher, how he was teaching, things I was noticing the whole group doing, areas that I can help, areas that he does a really good job in. And my co-op teacher was a ninja when it came to classroom management. He was phenomenal, and watching him take care of those kids in a respectful way that promotes the relationship, but also makes sure that there aren't fistfights happening in the middle of the lesson, it was brilliant. So I have a lot of notes from him. The other way that I used this was to keep track of groups that I used, so that there weren't a lot of repeating. Or if I happened to find a group that worked really well together, then I could go back and be like, these people, despite not being the best of friends or demonstrating that in other ways in the school, in recess or lunch, actually work really, really well together. So I need to remember these names for this kind of a project. Additionally, I will show you at the very back, I had a system, and I think it's right here. Here it is! Right in the middle of my book where absolutely no one would find it. I had a system for the students, and you can almost see, hopefully, they are numbered off, and that way I could refer to them in this journal should it fall into someone else's hands without any issues of privacy or students finding out potentially information about their progress, learning, education, the way things were going in the class that particular day that I don't want them to find. So, as I mentioned in my last video, I had the learning journals, the reflective journals that we used together. And super sneakily, on the inside edge, I numbered each one. I had no idea who would receive which envelope at what time. It just depended who was there and who was handing it out. And then after I had the envelope, I recorded those individuals' names from the front of the envelope into my handy-dandy journal here. And then if there was any serious issues that I was concerned that students would see their names in, I used numbers instead. And that turned out to be very good. They absolutely respected that this was my space and that this was a private thing. But I know they were looking over my shoulder. They're kids. So finally, I also kept track of what I was running for visual arts, what kind of projects would help with the unit that I was running. I had a lot of options for students for differentiation, so they could do a visual representation, they could do an essay, or they could use a technology piece, and that all took scaffolding throughout my unit to build towards the skills so that I was confident when we came to the final project, they would have the ability to do it without any issue, and it was like that. They absolutely did. And the rubric that we designed together as another adaptation for students to recognize what's required of them, the expectations, as well as designing it together, turned out to be an excellent strategy as well, and I received really high quality work from the final project. So I am so happy. Finally, I used this book, and I'm just going to quickly show you. Yeah. So, some things. It's a grade 8 classroom, so stuff happens every single day, every single lesson, little things that come up and that don't necessarily weigh you down, but certainly add up by the end of the day. For that particular day that you just saw, for 5 pages straight of notes, we had a field trip. And we went to a different center with all of the grade 8s all together with their instruments. And during that time, I had to hand out several lunchtime suspensions. So, 6 in total. It was a very stressful day. There was a lot going on. In the end, the behaviors that were exhibited were honestly because of boredom or anxiety and nerves for performing. So, not going to hold that against the students. Asked them how they could make it better, and they did very quickly, and were off to their recesses, which are absolutely critical and should not be taken away. But I certainly needed to be the authority figure in that particular circumstance, and that definitely stressed me out. By that end of the day, which was the phys ed block that I sat and wrote in this journal, I was stressed, I was doubting myself, I was overwhelmed, and I was very frustrated. So frustrated with the students that it was hard for me to reset, to run a great lesson, to celebrate them as individuals, to not hold it against them. So I sat down for an entire phys ed lesson while my co-op partner and co-op instructor ran the class. I sat at the back in a nice, calm, and empty classroom, and I wrote for the entire block everything that had been bothering me, everything that had come up, all of these issues that were weighing me down, overwhelming me, and making it so much harder to reset. And I wrote, and I wrote, and I wrote. I didn't have to tell anyone about the issues. I didn't have to demonstrate insecurity or vulnerability if I wasn't feeling like that was something I needed to do. I could reset, and as soon as those kids came back into the classroom after phys ed, I was good. I was better. So, if for nothing else, for nothing that I've said, informing your own process, informing the learning that goes on in the classroom, remembering what students need and helping them address it in big ways or little ways, for reflecting on your own process, what worked, what didn't work, what you do differently next time, to remember what happens in the classroom, the little things that are so lovely that you just don't ever want to forget, they're in here too. And then there's those days when you really need to vent. And if you want a safe place to vent, I sincerely encourage you to use anecdotal observations that will be numbered so that no one can know who they are, a system of your own preference, and an ability to reflexively educate as well as reset for your students. So, thank you very much. I certainly hope you enjoyed this. If you happen to be a fan of anecdotal observations, and this is something that you bring to your classroom all the time, or to your teaching process, I would love to hear from you, because any tips and tricks, come and send them my way. That would be fantastic. Thank you so much. This is the end of my video, and I look forward to you seeing what else I plan on bringing to this excellent job.